Ahlan wa sahlan bikum. It's me, Simone. I'm from Louisiana, and today we are reviewing our 128th film for Simon and Acting Movie Reviews. I'm here with my beautiful wife. Say hi, boo.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Akdi, and I'm from Turkey. And today we are reviewing Aisha Can't Fly Away.
Yes, this is a 2025 Egyptian drama, body horror, magical realism, romance film, crime drama.
It is genre bending. Like I would say, drama and horror.
It is a very serious film with small parts of humor. Maybe also if you have a dark sense of humor, there's parts where you can laugh at it if you watch it again. But it is a very important film, I would say, because this is the very first Egyptian film ever with a black female lead, which feels like it should have happened more than 20 years ago, but this is still the world we're living in where we still have to break these types of barriers. But we watched this film about 2 weeks ago, and I can say I can't stop thinking about it since we saw it. But what did you think about it when we watched it?
Yeah, I think we also just sort of picked this movie randomly. I think you picked it, and we didn't know what to expect. I think, for me at least, I was expecting just like kind of a drama, you know, that you would see, that we probably have seen before. But then it took like this magical turn, and yeah, like I agree with you. It's made me think about it ever since.
Yeah.
And just like sort of, and I still haven't found the answers because it's so like, I feel like versatile.
It is. It is a very, because you could analyze this film from like a black lens, a feminist lens, an immigrant lens, you know, and just the way the film is shot as well. Shout out to the director, Morad Mostafa, who wrote and directed. This is his debut feature-length film, and I could say he's going to have a very long and successful career if he continues making films of this quality and telling these types of stories. There was an interview he did with, I think, BFI, like an organization about film, and he said, you know, in every other country we have immigrant story films that feature, you know, people who come from those communities. But in Egypt, even though we have millions of immigrants, we don't have these types of stories told on screen. So this is why he made this film, and I can applaud him for really trying to bring this story to light. What did you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think like what he did wasn't just a regular immigrant movie, like, oh, like boohoo and all of that stuff. Yes, obviously there are bad things happen in this movie, and we feel sad for the main character, for the conditions. But I think like he just gave also this power to this main character, you know, who was an immigrant. So that's one of the things that I liked about it as well.
Right. So let's just break down the story very quickly. It's the story of this young Sudanese girl who's living in the slums of Egypt. She works as a like hospice caretaker for elderly people, and she gets caught up in a very gangster lifestyle and is also faced with the social pressures of being a sort of undocumented migrant laborer in Egypt. So that's why we're telling this story about this. And I also have to say, I think this film, you know, is going to be revisited in a few years or maybe discovered by film buffs who realize like this is like the beginning, I think, of a new genre of like North African storytelling. You know what I mean? From the black perspective or the female perspective or the immigrant perspective. I think this might be the beginning of something. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. I mean, as you can see here, like it was nominated for in the Cannes Film Festival this year. But I do still think like it's kind of unheard of or like underrated. That's the word I'm looking for in the cinema community.
Right.
For being such a like, you know, intricate movie.
Yeah. Very well done, very well layered. And let's break down the story. Let's go through the scenes here as we usually do. So the film stars Buliana Simon as Aisha, and she is the main character that we meet at the beginning of the film. We see her, you know, signing up for the temp agency that's going to assign her where to work in what I presume is Cairo. They don't really name the city, but I'll just assume it's the largest one in Egypt because boy is it noisy when she goes. Even when she's sitting in the house chilling with the old people, when they open up the windows, it's like you're in Midtown Manhattan, just traffic noises, like you're in the middle of the Istanbul streets. My God. And so, yeah, she basically takes care of old people all the time, feeds them, cleans them, all sorts of things. And, we also see her being out in Egypt, and, she sort of stands out. And these scenes right here really resonated with me as like a black person who lived in North Africa for some time. I'm coming to you now from Hungary, where I'm the only like black person on a bus or a tram sometimes. And like, you get that feeling like they're not looking at you, but they're looking at you. You know what I mean? You can feel the eyes on your back. And, we also see that, she's doing like nursing as well. So she's not just a simple caretaker, but we see Aisha, actually inject people with the medicine that they need. And she's very thorough and very involved in that aspect. But she also is doing some gangster shit. And we see that, when she's with one of her clients, she presses the key that of her client's house into a key presser, and then, lies to the lady like, oh, I just lost my phone. I just came back for that. And she takes this key to a key copier, and we then have to wonder what she's going to do with it next. But what did you think of the opening scenes when they showed like Aisha's life?
Yeah. I mean, it's gave the impression that she's like sort of having to grind really hard because like she's trying to make a living for her. Like, we see her, first going to one lady and then going to another lady and, signing up in the job agency. So for me, it was just like, okay, it's a hardworking, like, girl.
It's a hard knock life.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think definitely, like, the way the director included those, like, noisy scenes of the city, I feel like that was truly, like, a point of view from maybe an immigrant or a foreigner even, because sometimes like we end up in a city that's so chaotic and we're not used to that, and it just like brings this sort of anxiety, like, and even I feel like as an audience, I felt anxiety, like hearing all of those noises.
Yeah.
That was like annoying.
It was so loud. Yeah. This film has no music at all. And I definitely feel like partially that might be like budget constraints. Like it's an indie film. They don't have the money to pay for like music and stuff like that. But it's like done in a realistic type of way too, where it feels like you are in Egypt when she goes outside. You know what I mean? So.
And this is like one of the few movies that didn't have music where I didn't miss the music.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because there is always like this background noise. But when she like pressed the key, I was confused because I never saw that tactic before.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like,
that is
what is she doing?
Yeah, I didn't know that was possible either. But one thing I do have to say though is that this film is a slow burn by definition, because as we're talking about like the first few scenes where we're introduced to Aisha's life, this takes place like over 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So like, if you just turn on this film and you're not ready for what comes next, or if you don't have the patience or the time, you might get bored and like switch to something else. Because, one of the criticisms I have of some like Arab dramas is that they're a bit too draggy. It takes some time for the action to build, you know what I mean? But if you are patient past these first 15 minutes or so until the point when Aisha goes to her hood, then you're in for a ride, you know what I mean? But those first minutes, it's just quiet. There's like no dialogue, no talking, just seeing her like sweep the floor and clean the tables.
Yeah, but I have to say, like, I'm not always the most patient person when it comes to slow burns. Sometimes I do watch them, like, it depends on my mood. And at the time when we first watched this, I was kind of tired, so I wasn't really in the mood for a slow burner, right?
Yeah.
But I do think this movie has sort of like an ASMR quality because Aisha is cleaning, right? So like literally there are people who watch cleaning videos online.
Okay.
And like you hear like all of the things, and plus I feel like there's so much imagery as well. Like for example, I remember in the first scenes, like this lady is a Christian, right? And there were like all these like Jesus photos and I don't know, like a different Christian imagery in her house. And then we have Aisha, who's a Muslim, who's cleaning this house, Like those things, maybe like it didn't mean to be that deep.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting, and maybe that's what kept me engaged.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's interesting. I didn't know about the ASMR cleaning videos. Is that what you be doing when I'm not around?
Sometimes it's kind of relaxing, like seeing a filthy table and then getting, like, you see it being cleaned.
It's so satisfying, as
Yeah.
people say. I guess. I mean, that's not my shtick. I would never. But that's what the first 15 minutes is. Slow burn, no dialogue, Aisha just cleaning. So get through that part, and then you're in for something. So as we see, she takes the keys to the key copier, and she goes back to her hood. But before she does that, she meets up with Pasta Bay. His name is Aboud, but we're going to call him Pasta Bay because essentially that's what he does. He works as a chef in a kitchen, and he feeds Aisha almost every day. She knocks on the back door, he lets her in, and they have zero chemistry, zero talking, anything like that. Even though he obviously comes across as like a nice guy, not only in this part, but I would say throughout the film.
Yeah.
And you're wondering, like, does he love Aisha? Is he trying to get with Aisha? Is Aisha too shy? Does she not like him? You know what I mean? This was an interesting dynamic in the story. What did you think of this scene?
I thought their relationship was comfortable in a way where they were able to like just sit in and then not talk. Mm-hmm. Because also, like, I feel like when you look at like sort of working class, lower class people's relationships, you know, they don't have the opportunities to do like posh things. Mm-hmm. So like the time they enjoy with each other is just like sit in silence and like rest, you know? Mm-hmm. And I felt like a little bit like that's what they were doing. Mm-hmm. Even though I also found it a bit strange, like just, you know, their chemistry.
So this part of the film related to me so much because I've lived a weird life. And when I was in Tunisia, I had a friend whose name was Zied, and he owned a restaurant. He wasn't like the working class guy like I assume Pasta Bay is. But he would do the same thing with me. I would be in the back of his little restaurant, and we would be eating pasta that he cooked. It would be more lively because Zied was crazy. But I was like, it's so weird. Like, did somebody make a film partially based on my life? That's what I felt about this scene. But
I also didn't like immediately thought that they were together, by the way.
I thought that the film was going to lead to them eventually getting together and like running away, or like a forbidden love situation. You know what I mean? Like, because he's obviously like a Egyptian, and she's like maybe a black foreigner or a black Egyptian. And, you know, the underlying theme, I think, in this film is the tension of the racism that, you know, Aisha is going to face as a black woman. Like, you expect that to happen in this film. And I would say, you know, it doesn't happen explicitly, like blatant racism, like her walking through the streets and getting called names or harassed or stuff like that. But the film highlights the like microaggressions that happen against black women in these settings, right?
Yeah.
And I think this situation is going to show, like, you know, it's more complex. It's more nuanced. Like, of course, there's bad people that are racist, but there are also good people that would help you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So moving forward, Aisha leaves the restaurant and goes back to her hood, and her hood is run by this Egyptian gangster that you see on the screen. His name is Zuka, and Zuka is basically like the top dog in the hood. He runs everything, and he also has a gang of guys that sit out in the court with him on these couches next to this old broken down van. And they just drink, do drugs, do deals, shootouts, all sorts of wicked shit in these streets. And we find out that Aisha's job in the hood is to go and do the house cleaning, but then bring back the key prints or the keys so that Zuka could then go rob the houses later. Mm-hmm. What did you think of that scene?
Well, I just loved their setup, like Zuka and his gang setup, because it reminded me of like a music video or something, you know, like when people do this for aesthetics or trying to look hard. But then in real life, you have actually Zuka and his team like sitting on the stolen couch, probably next to a van that they sleep in. I don't know, like, you know. But Loki, I have to say, Zuka is a looker.
Okay.
I think he's cute. But obviously, like, in the first few minutes, like, he's like a bully, you know, and he's like a gang leader, criminal.
Yeah.
That's how we're introduced to him.
Yeah, Zuka is vicious because right after Aisha like drops off the keys later on that night, she looks out the window, which is what she often does, and sees Zuka like feeding some black gangsters to dogs. Literally, literally, he sicks the dogs on these guys and watches them get eaten alive. You know what I mean? And the tension that Zuka has is that he's running his neighborhood and he's trafficking drugs, but there's also these new African migrants that are coming in and trafficking drugs as well. He does some business with them, but there is some turf wars because he kills these guys because they come to his hood to sell drugs. So that was a very interesting dynamic. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I think like the part what I was thinking about is basically the first time we see this happening, we see it from Aisha's window. And we see like her watching it, and it's just this thought of like she's consuming what is happening here, and possibly thinking, you know, if he does this to men or black men, like what can he do to me if I don't comply with him?
Yeah.
You know, like there's that terrorizing of tenants.
Yeah, he's ruling the hood like a little mini dictator, you know what I mean? And he's ruling over basically a bunch of black people, you know what I mean? Because like Aisha's not the only person that lives in the hood this way. Zuka makes his money off these black migrants coming in, but he also is trying to fight back against these other migrants who are coming in. I think this film highlights a tension that happens in North Africa, and I've seen it myself and spoken about it on my channel. You know, there are many, many black people that are moving into North Africa, primarily to getting to Europe, but also because there's like slightly higher living standards in North Africa. Like in Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, you know, the power doesn't go out. You know what I mean? And water typically runs most of the time. You know what I mean? Like there's slightly better infrastructure and services. And we went to Tanzania and Kenya and we experienced it ourselves where power outages are just like a normal part of life. And you might not have water today. You know what I mean? So stuff like that. And that's less of a problem in North Africa. And so there's like it is in any other part of the world, this tension that the migrants are coming and they're going to take our resources, take our land, take our jobs, in this case, our drug dealing business. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, for Zuka, it's merely like keeping his power, I guess. And it's also like for these other kids or other gangs, it's more of a survival. So they're fighting for like something different in a way. Yeah, but this was also a part of the story that made it interesting for me because I like gangster films. So part of me was like, okay, all right, this shit is getting real. It's getting ill in here, all right? And Aisha watching everything from her project window just made me think about a certain Nas song. Nas has this line, I saw it all from my project window. And here's Aisha just looking out. See? Anyway, shall we continue? Yes.
All right, so basically, Aisha is the worst criminal because it's sort of obvious that she had something to do with the crime. And her boss is like, you know, the woman that you were staying with, she got robbed last night and she got really hurt. And the police are suspecting you. And if you have any information, please let us know. In the meantime, we're going to transfer you to this other place of this man called Mr. Khalil. He's a diabetic and he needs help. And so, you know, there's a lot of tension on Aisha. And she, you know, leaves the police station and says, you know, I can't send you any more of the keys. You know, the police are looking for me and stuff like that. And so, yeah, she goes to Mr. Khalil's house, and there's this very kind of funny scene, but also, you know, a bit sad as well. Like Aisha can't communicate with the former housekeeper for Mr. Khalil because she only speaks French, and she's trying to tell him, "Et toi, et toi," which means like clean in French, and Aisha's just looking like, bitch, what did you say? And it was kind of funny, but it's very real because most of Black Africa speaks French as like a European second language, you know what I mean? And yeah, I thought that scene was very interesting. Any comments on that?
Yeah, this guy at the office, he was like Jafar from Aladdin. Like he actually also looks like Jafar too. But you will also see why I said that. I said that later. But yeah, it was like, I guess kind of comedic, like you said, when those two girls meet, but it also showed like, you know, just because maybe they look similar doesn't mean that they have like that they're the same, basically. Also that like even within their community, they will have differences to a point where they won't be able to understand each other. So it's not always like possible to make community together just because you look alike.
Exactly. Africa's a big place.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, you know, I felt like she was giving like some medical information, right? She was saying like he has diabetes, his feet is like cut off, and you have to like change it and stuff like that. And Aisha wasn't understanding anything, which also showed me like sort of how she has to improvise basically every time she goes to a new client, and she has to investigate and find ways to like take care of those people. Yeah,
I also want to say like, I think most of the people here are first-time actors, Aisha included, Buliana Simone. And I want to say, like, all the acting from everybody, especially the black women here, I think is excellent, top-notch. Because I really like the acting of this French girl who is here. I really like Aisha's acting in general. And everybody did an excellent job. And going back to Mr. Jafar here, I think this film could also be analyzed from a, you know, capitalist lens. Like, this company is essentially exploiting migrant labor. And so while, you know, people in Egypt might be talking about the migrants are coming and taking our jobs and stuff like that, no, migrants aren't coming to take your jobs. There are companies exploiting people who are looking for opportunities to feed themselves while they try to live past a war. You know what I mean? So there's like a anti-capitalist lens you could also view this film from, I think is skipped over a bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess also like when we live in a capitalistic world, like if you're escaping war and these type of situations, like horrible situations, and then because it's a capitalistic world and you're a refugee or an immigrant, your conditions are not better or your conditions are not the same. Like here, Aisha is still in the middle of a violent neighborhood, you know, dealing with sexist men who are trying to take advantage of her or anything like that. You know, it's kind of like war here too. Exactly.
It's just people trying to survive and make it. You know what I mean?
It's like when we don't have universal healthcare and universal education, universal employment, whatever, all of those things, it's really hard to like provide those things in a capitalistic world.
Yeah, and it just makes people, you know, look at the migrant as the enemy, right? Because like these rich guys, you know, have getting money hand over fist off of the labor of these young women, and then people just say, look at these two Africans coming to take good jobs from good Egyptian women who could be doing this. You know what I mean? So moving forward in the film, we see that, you know, Zuka is making money from like all the migrants coming in, because at this scene, like we see a bunch of new migrants come with like bags stacked to the ceiling on top of cars, and they're like handing Zuka money for apartments and like, you know, lodging and stuff like that. And he's just counting up the bills, hundreds, blue bands. Okay, like, but this made me feel like Zuka is like the most greedy gangster of all time. He's doing too much. He's a landlord. He's breaking into houses. He's drug dealing. You know what I mean? He's doing too much. I understand being a kingpin, but there's a part where you got to stop being greedy, dog. You know what I mean?
It's like if you own apartments to rent, why are you a gangster? Like, just get rent and live your life. Like, chill. You know? Yeah. Because it's not like Aisha's apartment is the only apartment he's renting. Like he has like this whole neighborhood.
He owns the trenches.
Yeah, like he owns the whole neighborhood, like whole block. And I don't understand like why is he living this life?
Yeah. But anyway, so moving forward, Aisha is on the phone with her sister, and her sister is still in Sudan, and her sister is telling her like, yo, it's getting crazy down here. The RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, are tearing through Khartoum and other different cities. You know, I got harassed in the store the other day by one of the RSF soldiers. They beat me, and nobody did anything because they're so scared of them. And Aisha is like, Mashallah, alhamdulillah, God be with you and protect you. And her sister is saying the same thing to her. And her sister is telling her, like, what about your studies? What about university? Are you almost done? And she says, yeah, I'm almost done with my studies. I'm going to work in a hospital instead of homes. And when she's on the phone, a brick comes through her window. And then she gets the message, you gonna keep bringing me keys. And it's obviously Zuka sending her a warning. But what did you think of those scenes?
Yeah, I think this scene sort of like, the way Zuka put pressure on her made me realize that in the beginning, I was kind of blaming Aisha and thinking like, why is she getting involved in this criminal shit? She's going to lose her job. But then when I see like what is happening, I sort of realize, okay, maybe she never wanted to be involved in this to begin with. And she was forced from the beginning or coerced. Yeah. Maybe she did it one time because she was threatened, and then this became like a full-time thing. So that was that, but also like sort of, I think like we both can relate to it, even though our countries are not at war, technically. Yeah, but it's like, having fucked up shit happening in your home country and then you being away and sort of trying to relate to what is going on. Yeah. That is hard, and she's in a much worse position because her family is like in physical danger. Yeah.
It's like, you watch Turkish news, I watch American news. I try to keep up what's happening in Turkey and vice versa. You know what I mean? And every time you hear about what's happening back home, it sort of breaks your heart. And you might not like the country you're in. Like Aisha probably definitely does not like Egypt. And, I can speak for me. Like, I don't love Hungary. I'm not really a big fan of this place. But when I look at what's happening in the U.S. with all the violence, all the democratic backsliding, all the repression, it makes you feel like, damn, where can I go? And this is what I think a lot of people don't get about the immigrant experience. It's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You're stuck between the fire or the frying pan. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I definitely related to that scene when she's on the phone with her sister.
Yeah, especially when you're a refugee. Like, you have to go wherever they tell you to go to keep alive, basically, stay alive. Yeah. So it's not really like them loving every single place that they're being sent to. Like, that's just not the reality of it.
Yeah. And I thought it was a bit interesting, like, she's on her phone with her sister hearing about the violence back there, but then she's almost like a victim of violence right here when the brick goes through her window. It's sort of like, once again, there's the fire and the frying pan. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, violence seems to follow,
Yeah, definitely.
So moving forward, we see that, Aisha actually uses her nursing skills to give back to the Sudanese community. We see her go to this place where this young boy, I believe his name is Mohammed, he obviously can't walk. He had his legs damaged, I guess, because of the war back in Sudan. And she's giving free medical care to this young boy. But as she goes back to her house later that night, she sees more from her project window that Zuka is like drug dealing, and there's like these two African dudes pull up and they're like tasting cocaine and like, distributing coke, and that's also what Zuka is up to in the hood. So what did you think about these two scenes, if anything?
Yeah, I think community is a big part of this movie because we see, like, throughout all the darkness that Aisha is facing through, all the violence that she's facing through, we constantly see her turn to community. And that's, like, a very essential part of also, like, just mental health, Communities literally keep us alive in that sense. But I think also this scene, for example, even if you just look at this picture, you can see the living conditions of people as well. And these are families. And like at the beginning of this scene where she enters, it's so crowded, and we don't know like if it's just one house and 20 people live in it. So I think that was like an important thing that the movie was constantly trying to allude to. Yeah. And when it comes to Zuka sat down and said like, what is every criminal activity I can do?
He's trying to do a checklist.
Like, do you want to be a drug dealer?
Yes.
A smuggler?
Yes.
A gang leader?
Yes.
Yes. He said yes.
Okay. This scene with Muhammad and Aisha, I didn't catch it the first time I watched it. I watched this film twice, and the second time I watched it, it made me think about all these videos I've seen come out of Sudan that have just been so heartbreaking. The world is focused on the genocide in Gaza, as we rightly should be, but we also should be speaking about what's happening in Sudan, where a civil war has been waged between the military that supports the government and this paramilitary organization called the Rapid Support Forces. And Sudan is a multi-ethnic country, but it's, basically, Arabs, people that we would define as Arab, Muslim Arabs, and also black Muslims and black Christians, right? And it's sort of been a sectarian type of racial type of tribal war that's been happening there that I think people should pay more attention to. And over 6 million people are facing food insecurity in Sudan. Millions of people have been displaced and chased out of their homes. The Rapid Support Forces have done like ethnic cleansing of like black people, like the Masalit tribe in Western Sudan. And horrific things have happened that have caused millions of people to flee this once thriving country. So it's very sad to just see, the ramifications of war and how it affects children, I think there was a part where Aisha was on the phone with her sister, and she says something like that, like, these men fight and we get trampled under it. You know what I mean? We're the victims of war. So, yeah. So moving forward, we see Aisha taking care of Mr. Khalil, and there's this like nasty scene where she has to like clean his diabetic foot, and this is when the film starts to turn it a little bit into body horror. This is a slow burn, so like the tension starts to rise and the gross out effects start to happen as well throughout the film. We also see that Aisha is sort of like bonding a bit with Pasta Bay. She goes to eat with him and he drops her off at home and takes care of her a bit. And I find a lot of these scenes like so picturesque. You know what I mean? Like, you could take a snapshot of a lot of these scenes and put them on the wall like a poster, like this one right here. And this is when we see the ostrich for the first time. And it's sort of like jarring and it takes you out of place and you're like, wait, what am I looking at? And so Aisha comes back to her house late at night and is meted by this giant ostrich. And you're like, are ostriches indigenous to North Africa? Like, what? Is this a real thing? But what did you think about any of those scenes?
I mean, I guess when we saw, like, she's taking care of this old man and she's going to see her bae, it's sort of like, oh, life is back to normal after, she got threatened by Zuka. And we see her daily life, and then you see the ostrich, and the first time I saw it exactly like how you described, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I didn't even like realize at first that this could be like magical reality, you know? I was like, wait, I guess like there's an ostrich in the street. And I didn't even like had time to like,
process it.
Yeah. And I couldn't even think anything about it, really. Like, the only thing that came into my mind is because the title of the movie is Aisha Can't Fly.
Yeah.
I was like, can ostriches fly?
No, they can't.
They can't. So, okay, like, maybe there's some symbolism there. Like, that's the only thing I thought. Yeah,
I definitely think the ostrich symbolizes Aisha or her situation in Egypt, right? Or the situation of being a black migrant in a country that's not predominantly black, right? And I think, you stand out like an ostrich would in Egypt, right? And you can't fly away. You can't just leave this place. You're stuck on land. You have to find a way to make it. And ostriches are also like sometimes food as well. So like an ostrich is prey, to some predatory animals, especially humans, So I think there's a lot of similarities with the ostrich, but primarily it's like being so nondiscreet. Distinguishable in society. You stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I think like it definitely, I agree with you. It sort of represents her alienation from the rest of the world around her.
Yeah. Going back to Pasta Bay, I just want to say, I was so frustrated a bit. I think one of the things you might watch in this film and get frustrated a bit is like, at this point, Aisha is being threatened by Zuka that, she can't, live in this community anymore unless she starts bringing the keys to Zuka, which is eventually going to get her in prison. So I was thinking like, okay, you have this nice guy who obviously wants to be Captain Save him. Let him save you, girl. Like, why don't you want to get saved? But she doesn't open up to him, But it's
tricky because he might see that as too much weight.
Mm-hmm.
Because later on, Aisha has more problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like she's also maybe thinking like, okay, he's not a rich guy. He's not a powerful guy. He's just a guy that likes me, right, and loves me. And I can't just really put my pressure on him because I don't know how much he can handle. And then he can just say, like, you're not worth it and just leave her.
You see this, fellas? This is how ladies think about nice guys. Don't be nice.
No, it's not about him being nice, but it's his inability to do anything. Like, what is he going to do? Like, go after Zuka? Like, he's not going to be able to do that.
But all Zuka said, Zuka didn't say, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to, hurt you. He just said, you can't live here anymore. You know what I mean? Is essentially the threat. So shack up with, Pasta Bay. But maybe deep down inside, Aisha knew that their relationship couldn't work because of the difference between them. She's Sudanese, he's Egyptian, she's black, he's off-white. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but also, like, I don't know. Like, Pasta Bay didn't propose to her, didn't invite her to live with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe she doesn't want to kind of force him to do those things.
I see. Maybe it was just frustrating for me because like there's lack of dialogue between these two. Aisha doesn't say much throughout the film. She has very few lines actually.
Yeah.
And I just wish there was like more banter between them to discover more about the relationship. Watching it the second time, I filled in between the lines maybe. And if this book was a novel, and it was written maybe in third person or first person, we would get to peer into Aisha's mind, but we don't really get that. So it's sort of like fill in the blank on what you think is happening in their relationship.
I actually didn't mind the silence in general and also like their silence in their relationship because to me it felt like it's a reflection of like her other relationships also within this Egyptian society.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this one is maybe the most sincere one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still, like I don't think like she can sort of completely show herself, even with Pasta Bay.
Okay. All right, we'll agree to disagree. But after Aisha meets the ostrich, this is when like her body horror starts to happen. Like she's brushing her teeth in her house, and this is when her teeth start bleeding, and she like spits out a lot of blood. And this is now becoming like a continued theme in the film. Like Aisha's body starts to metamorphose and starts to have a lot of problems and damage and stuff like that. I think also we begin to notice in the film that Aisha has one blue eye. And when we looked up the actual actress, Buliana Simone, she doesn't have, this condition that causes you to have one eye that's a different pigmentation. So I wonder if there's any sort of significance to the character having one blue eye. I think it's like, Egypt still needs a proximity to whiteness for a main character to exist. You know how in Arab films, like they get the whitest people possible and dye their hair blonde or whatever. But I think that's maybe it. But I don't know. What do you think?
The way I interpreted it was like her having kind of like the special power because, like I feel like in traditional societies when you have something different with your body, it's sort of interpreted as you having superpowers. Oh, you can see into the future, or you can see you can talk to the ancestors.
Do they think that in Turkey, like if somebody has one eye different color, like there's like a saying or expression or a thought belief about them?
I mean, no, but in general, we do love witchery. Like we have, a whole culture around flipping your coffee cup and then trying to tell the future. And yeah, But and also we do have a cat that has different colored eyes.
Okay.
It's really cute.
Okay.
And we love, like, that's, our cultural cat.
Okay.
But anyways, that's what I felt like that was with Aisha, like because we also saw the ostrich. I was like, okay, maybe she got like some superpowers,
Yeah, I agree with you on that first theory. Like, in traditional societies, they might look at that and say, oh, she's a bit different. And I think it is reflected in the way that Zuka treats her. You know what I mean? Like, we see every time that Zuka and Aisha interact, he's kind of has a bit more respect and reverence for her. He still dominates her and shows that he's more powerful than her and comes down with a heavy fist. But he sort of talks to her as if she's a bit different. You know what I mean? Not like the other people that he, controls in the neighborhood, you know?
I mean, maybe it's because Aisha does live her life the way he never could. Mm-hmm. Like, because Aisha, even though she's forced to rob for this guy, Zuka, she lives with integrity. Mm-hmm. Like, she's not doing anything else besides than what she's forced to do. I
also think that's a good point. Like, she lives with integrity. And throughout the film, when I watched it the second time, I noticed that there's an emphasis on Aisha's cleanliness. And there's a scene when she first meets Pastabe, and they take 1 minute just to show her washing her hands. They show her in the film brushing her teeth. They show her in the film, really taking a good job of cleaning her own environment and stuff like that. And I think the director did that to emphasize, Black people are clean. Unfortunately, in a lot of parts of the world, there's a stereotype that exists that Black people are dirty, we smell bad, et cetera, et cetera. And I think those parts of the film, like this scene with her brushing her teeth, right? It's to highlight that she's going through this body change, but also to show we in Egyptian society maybe need to stop stereotyping them as filthy and dirty, Blacks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I also think that stereotype continues to immigrants as well. That sometimes people say, oh, immigrants can't buy soap or whatever, things like that. And that could be the case, but I feel like most of the time it's not.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. It's not just Black people that this stereotype exists on, because, my president stood up in front of the world and said they're bringing crime, drugs, diseases, these immigrants, and he was mostly talking about Latin American people. But I think also, specifically in relation to Black people, I think this stereotype does exist, and because the film focuses on Aisha, the film is trying to combat that. You know what I mean? There's no reason to have a scene of a girl washing her hands other than to highlight that, Yeah,
we always see her putting deodorant and all of those things.
Yeah, she hella clean. She smelled good. Yeah. You can smell it through the screen. She smelled like sandalwood.
She probably smelled like flowers.
Yeah, but moving forward in the film, Aisha is waiting in line to get her paycheck with all the other, mostly Black, house ladies who, clean and take care of these people. And this one girl goes up there, she collects her check in cash, and she's counting it right in front of the people, counting her money. And she says there's 200 pounds missing. And the man says, what are you, crazy? Get away from me. You calling me a liar, bitch? And he back slaps her and slaps her so hard. And we only got the screenshot of the post slap.
She also spits on him.
She
fights back.
She fights back. And I like this scene because once again, this film is kind of a bit anti-capitalist, because once she spits on the man and fights with him, the man tries to jump on her, and all the other ladies sort of jump in to protect her and fight back against her. And the lady takes her extra money and leaves and starts, counting it up in the hallway. Aisha meets up with her. Sorry, we skipped ahead. I thought that scene would be caught on camera. But basically, Aisha meets this girl who got slapped here, and she's also from Sudan, and she becomes friends with her later. So what did you think of this scene?
I think after she has the whole fight, Aisha goes up to her and just asks, are you okay? And in a way, I felt like Aisha was sort of idolizing her strength, because most of the time we see Aisha, she's very silent. She's very complying with every order that she gets. So yeah, I feel like she was sort of admiring her courage to stand up and say my money's missing. I deserve my money. And I'm okay to spit in your face in order to do so. Yeah. So I feel she was wanting to be friends with this cool girl that stood up to that man.
She's like, she's badass. I need that type of friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that was cool. I really like her character as well. I forgot her name, but yeah, her strength and her ability was very dope. I also think that, this part of the film, once again, highlights, the anti-capitalist range. And I think it was very brave for the women to stand up and fight against the boss who was doing wage theft, because they could have all been fired. And when you're an immigrant, you could be easily replaced, So it was, I think that part of the film was very dope.
Yeah. Her name was Tafika.
Shout out to Tafika. Cool character. Want to have endless mimosas with Tafika.
I know, right? She got crazy stories.
Anyway, Tafika's strength should come in handy now for Aisha, because when she goes back to Mr. Khalil's house, she's changing him and feeding him. But then when she tries to dress him, he reaches for her hand and tries to pull it towards her crotch. And she is so disgusted. She runs away. And there's this scene when she goes back outside in Egypt and is faced with all the noise and stuff like that. And she's standing on this bridge. And there's just this good 35 to 45 seconds of her just looking at this bridge. And I think she wants to jump. She goes to her boss. Her boss looks at all the pictures of all the other girls who have been reporting this type of stuff. And he says, do you know how many other girls have, come with this type of complaint? And he says, there's nothing wrong with giving him what he wants. Think of it as a part of the job. And besides, you're under investigation since the robbery that happened to the other lady. So you better behave or you won't have a job, which was just so wicked, so sick. But I think the film does a good job of weaving the story together. The story is very, you're hooked at this point. You're hooked at this point. Damn. And you're wondering what Aisha's going to do, because she's faced with two dilemmas. You know what I mean? She's faced with the dilemma of Zuka, and also she's faced with the dilemma of this, sexual predator, Harvey Weinstein, in a wheelchair. So, yeah, what'd you think of this scene?
Yeah, I mean, these chains of events were absolutely horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have to say, when he was looking at these pictures, I didn't think these were the women who reported the incident. I thought it was a modeling catalog agency where he's looking at the woman, and these are the women that are applying for jobs.
Mm.
And he's sort of showing off, how easily we can replace you. Look at all these women that are here, and they're sending us our pictures, and we can choose whoever we want, and you can be gone. We don't need you.
Yeah.
But in fact, they do need her because she complies to their insanely disgusting requests, such as, pleasing this old man that is trying to basically sexually harass her.
Yeah. I know as a feminist, this part of the film really got you going. I know you were red hot.
That's why I hate this man. That's why he's Jafar. But yeah, it's just... It's just insane, how people use systems to oppress and literally, rape other women. It's insane. How can people think, what if this was my daughter? What if this was my sister? And things like that. So the way, this abuse works, it was. Yeah,
it was wicked. It was hard to watch, but it also made sense in the storyline, because Aisha sort of has no choice, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I don't approve of it. I'm just saying the way the story made it happen was so believable, you know what I mean? Feeling once again, frying pan or fire, rock in a hard place. Her walls are closing in on her, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so she's in between a rock and a hard place and a storm and a fire. She's just stuck in these four walls.
Yeah.
And I guess the saddest part was, obviously this is a fictional story. There is no Aisha in real life, but there are a lot of refugees that are in this position and everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
Not just from Sudan, but from a lot of other places.
Yeah, who are being taken advantage of and used and abused. Yep.
That's the saddest part.
So, moving forward, she goes to Pasta Bay, and I think Pasta Bay offers to make her Egyptian food, and she's like, "No, I'm not hungry. I just want pasta," or something like that. But yeah, she goes back home, and she's like, just tired of the day. Zuka comes knocking at the door, and he says he wants 80,000 Egyptian pounds in back rent, which is a fortune. And of course, she doesn't have that. And he says, I'm going to give you some time to think because you're a smart girl. So you either keep bringing me keys or you basically got to move out. I got a bunch of families moving in, and this place you're living in is kind of big. You know what I mean? I thought this scene was interesting because, like, she doesn't have her hijab on when he comes into the house.
I thought the same thing.
Yes, I didn't catch that until the second time I watched it. And I wanted to ask you because, like, I'm not a woman, and even though I'm Muslim, like, I don't understand the full politics of, like, when... of course, you're supposed to cover your hair around a man you're not married to, or not your father. A man who's not your father, brother, or your husband, right?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Technically, I feel like if you have a possibility of having sex with that person, you should cover your hair. Like, that's not going to be your father. That's not going to be your brother.
Grandfather.
That's not going to be your, like, relatives for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And if in any other case, you should be covering your hair. Yes. But the way I saw it, I actually noticed that, like, even the first time we watched, because that was so weird. Like, I guess maybe also I'm accustomed to it because I have women in my family that wear a hijab.
Mm-hmm.
I just always remember them, like, rushing and putting on, like, the hijab or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was weird, but it also made me think, like, she is sort of adapting to this new culture in a way. Like, it's not culture, but you get what I mean. Because Egypt, like, it's mixed, right? There are women that wear the hijab and there are also women that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even go as far to say, like, there may be more women outside in the streets, like, going about their day without a hijab.
Mm-hmm. Are you asking me?
I'm assuming. I don't know if it's correct, but I'm assuming if it's like Turkey.
I think it's like 50-50, because I feel like in Turkey it's 50-50, in my opinion.
Depends on where you are, but yeah.
From what I saw in Istanbul, in my opinion, it's 50-50. Girl might wear it and might not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it goes up the older they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think maybe she didn't wear it because partially maybe she was trying to flirt with Zuka. You think
to get rid of rent? Like, okay, maybe this... Oh, she was like, this old man gave me an idea.
No, that's fucked up. Maybe she was trying to flirt. Maybe she was like, all right, like, I'm dealing with Zuka on some real shit, you know what I mean? So I can't just hide behind the hijab or modesty, like, this is some gangster shit. Like, I've seen Zuka kill people. Like, he wouldn't care whether I'm wearing the hijab or not, you know what I mean? And maybe also it might be like, I'm in my house, you know what I mean? So you enter my house, you're under my rules, I guess, and in here, I'm free. I'm not under society's pressure or your pressure. And maybe that was a type of defiance. Maybe that's how I might look at it. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it could be both of those things. And I could also think it could just be like, that's how it is also in Sudan as well. Those politics, I feel like, could differ depending on where you are in the world too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're living in an environment where this isn't scandalous. Under, like, traditional, like, Islamic rules, like, a man enters your house who's not your husband and you're not wearing the hijab, scandal, child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in this case, there's shootouts every night, drug dealing going on. Yeah, okay.
She's like, this is not going to send me.
Yeah, this is... Anyway, moving forward. Aisha meets back up with Taufika. And Taufika's story is, like, very hard. Like, she was an illegal immigrant that basically fled under the cover of night and was chased by the Egyptian police through the mountains. And somehow she made it here. And she had to basically fight and claw to get there. And we also see Aisha hang out with Taufika's friends who are also from Sudan. And the girls are just having a big kiki. They're partying. They're telling funny stories. Like, one friend's wig got snatched off. And they start dancing and listening to music. And it's just an all-around good time. So what did you think of this scene right here?
Yeah, the way like Tafika was talking about her story, and I think also she mentions her sister. Her sister like got left behind or got caught by the police, and then she basically never saw her sister again. And the way like she was saying it, like it's such a tragic story, but it's like she was so accustomed to it maybe, or she was like she had to like be accustomed to this, or she had to accept some part of this tragedy in order to move on with her life, because she's also here and she's trying to survive as well, which was like sort of what war does to regular people. Like it desensitizes them to like these horrendous things. And then it continues with like more of a joyful sequence, which I love this part. Like this is one of my favorite parts because it just reminds me so much of my friends. Like after they have a whole kiki there and they're like, oh, try my makluba. No, you try mine. Like, you know, everyone's feeding each other. Yeah. They're telling funny stories, and then they start dancing afterwards. Yeah. And yeah, like it was very like nice to see this fun part of Aisha's life. Yeah. And once again, I feel like community, you know?
Yeah, because this film up to this point is like very dark and very serious. And I love how in the middle there's like a little bit of comedy. I hate when films don't throw in something a little bit funny. And this one was definitely needed. Like the wig story is kind of, you know, it makes you laugh a little bit. And yeah, it's it feels like, you know, Aisha's in community again. You know what I mean? Like it's different than when she went to the Sudanese community to do like charity work with nursing for like sick kids and old people and stuff like that. Like here she's like amongst peers and she can literally let her hair down, and it makes you like just like breathe out, exhale a bit as you're watching this dramatic story, you know?
Yeah.
So good pacing as well.
Yeah. And by the way, just to point out, like, in this house, these girls are like, what, 20 girls? They live in the same house. Just to point out, like, sort of also what they are going through.
Damn.
And because I was also thinking, why won't Aisha join them? And then I was like, oh, there are already like 25 girls in the house.
There's no space. There's no space. Yeah. And that's hard living. That's hard living. It's a hard knock life.
For us.
Yes. So moving forward in the film, you know, Aisha is having like more body issues, and this is where we start to see like she's getting these bumps around her stomach and these welts and rashes and stuff like that. She tries to cover them with cream, but we only see this basically when she's at home. We don't see this, of course, when she's outside because she's mostly covered, but this is where we see what's happening with her physically. There's also several scenes throughout the film where she like puts her legs up in the morning in the air. And I think this film, you know, really focuses on like her body as like, you know, dealing with the pressures of being a foreigner, an immigrant and stuff like that. So I didn't know where the welts and the things on her stomach was going to lead to in the film. But I like those parts in the film where she has to like put her legs up in the air every morning, and you see her like getting prepared, like meditating for the day, and you know, trying to take care of her body. So any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of things I guess I also noticed, and I you're so right, like those pressures that we have during the day and that she has also like in her life shows up physically. And that is like real. That is so real because like, you know, I study psychology, and when you study like an illness, you don't only look at mental symptoms. There's also physical symptoms for almost every like mental disease. And it shows up in our body. But also something I realized that she never sleeps. Like we never see this girl sleep. Obviously she sleeps, but the camera just never shows that. And she's always like, it's about to be sunlight, you know, the sun is about to rise, and we just see her like just laying down and contemplating and thinking and maybe meditating, like you say.
Yeah, thinking about her situation. And that's a good point. Speaking about, you know, when she sleeps, like, you know, later on that night, she has a bad dream where she goes to Zuka's van in the middle of the courtyard, opens the van, sits inside, and finds the dead African who was eaten by the dogs earlier by Zuka's gang. And she wakes up from that nightmare like, what the fuck did I look at? You know what I mean? And Zuka was like peeking through the window when she was having the dream as well. So yeah, like you said, we don't see her sleep, and we just see her sort of like tortured by the stresses and pressures that she's under. So
Yeah, yeah, and it reminds me of the director's interview. Like basically the way he got inspired to write the story is one day he was in a bus, and there was an immigrant girl, a black immigrant girl, and she was asleep, and then she just screamed. And this happened in real life, and that's when he started contemplating and thinking about like what are her nightmares, you know, why did she scream, and what was she seeing? And that's how he sort of developed the whole movie.
That's so dope. And then, yeah, he did talk about that in the interview, and I remember that now. And that makes me think about the several scenes in this film. We don't really have screenshots of it, but there are several scenes when Aisha is just on a bus, on a train, sitting there silently, you know what I mean? And once again, like we showed that scene when she's on that bus before, it's like you could feel people looking at her, but not looking at her. You could feel the difference of being in those public third places and stuff like that. And it makes me think about, you know, like when I'm out and about and I see other black people, I'm like, what's your story? How did you get here? And I'm more than certain a bunch of white people look at me and say, what's your story? How did you get here? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's like you wonder about, you know, people's stories that bring them to different countries and places that, you know, maybe they want to be, maybe they don't want to be, but they stand out. And so it makes you just think about that. So that was very dope.
Yeah, yeah.
But moving forward in the story, we see more of the Sudanese community. They're teaching the kids Quran, and Aisha is there as well. She's like, you know, reciting Quran with the kids, being a part of the community as much as she can. She's also doing some more charity work for the older man that's there, showing that, you know, she's really trying to do something good and positive for this community. And we also see that her community is looking back out for her because her friend Tawfika is coming through with the keys. She got the keys, the keys, the keys. She got the keys, the keys, the keys, yes. And so Tawfika is dropping keys off for Aisha so that she can give to Zuka and keep her apartment. And that's the gang. That's my dog. That's my girl. Yes, yes. What did you think about that? Like the community.
She's a ride or die.
She's a ride or die. Yeah. So what do you think about the community coming, like Aisha being there for the community coming through for her, or any of these scenes?
Yeah. I mean, once again, it's so important. It's so important. Like we see here Aisha happy and smiling and meditating and practicing like her spiritual part, you know, and then, you know, we see her like when she's with these like older people, she's helping them. We see like her taking great care of the tasks that she's doing, like the medications and stuff like that. So it's just, I feel like that part is truly healing for her. And also the community gives her back, you know, through her friend Tawfika.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, at this part of the film, you know, I was like rooting for Aisha. And this is what I think is such a good thing about this film. It makes you like the main character, even though I have some issues with how she dealt with like Pasta Bay and stuff like that. Like Aisha never makes a bad decision or a stupid decision. You're not looking at the screen like saying, girl, you know what I mean? Like it all makes sense. You sympathize for her, you root for her. And she is like a pure protagonist in a way. You know what I mean? And a lot of the films we have, like there's some gray or some nuance with the people where sometimes you like judge them. But in this case, like you're like saying like, okay, Aisha, you that girl. We with you. You know what I mean? And so you want to see her come up.
And plus we always see like she doesn't really have that much room to budge in most of the situations she's in, like with Zuka and like with the guy who's trying to assault her at her work. So yeah, it's like, she can't do that much, but she does what she can. Yeah. And she always makes those decisions based on, like, logic, basically. Like
exactly. And shout out to Tawfika once again for being a real one and coming through with the keys. Like, I didn't expect that. And I think I actually missed this in the first time watching it. But when I watched it the second time, I was like, oh, that's really major. You know what I mean? So, yeah, once again, community being a part of it and community looking back for her. So that's dope. So she goes back to... Pasta Bay. Pasta Bay is trying to like, you know, say like I cook good Egyptian food like my mother, and she's like, okay, maybe I eat it sometime, something like that, right? But then Aboud's brothers come through, and Aboud's brothers are saying like, I found a woman in so and so city. Can you go and you will go and marry her? And her brothers come through like Zuka's gang. Is Egyptian just run by peer pressure gangs where they make people pay money to do social activities like get married? I'm sorry. Anyway, so her brother, Aboud's brother, Pasabe's brother, is like, do you like this filthy black woman inside? And he's like, no. And then he's like, are you having sex with this filthy black woman or something like that? And he doesn't say anything. And Aisha is looking through the window and, she sees Pasabe again, and Pasabe goes to the bathroom or something like that. And we just see that he's just like sort of depressed, despondent, and also very hungry. So what did you think of these scenes?
Oh my God. Okay. There's so much I want to say. I don't know why, but everything just came back to me and my mind is bubbling. But in this scene, he's also talking about the same dish that the other Sudanese girls did in the get-together. And it's like makluba or something like that. And correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm butchering the name. Yeah. But he's saying like, he does the best makluba like his mom. And it's like kind of ironic that she experiences that part of Egyptian culture with other Sudanese girls and from Sudanese girls, but she did not from her bae, who's Egyptian. Like that's a bit ironic, and I don't know, like it's just a little twist.
I think that dish, I think it's called moukhaya or something like that. It's widely eaten throughout the Arab world. It's like this green, spinachy type of dish, stuff like that. And I think, like you said, it's interesting she had this with her friends, and it probably tastes more like home. And I think maybe the underlying thing is like between them, she doesn't really want to be a part of Egyptian culture. You know what I mean? She's like more a fan of her own culture and her own food and stuff like that. So that's why she only wants to eat pasta. I don't know, but go ahead. Anything?
And then, like it's just coming back here. I just thought this scene was so powerful for many reasons. First of all, it just reminded me of the days I was working in the kitchen, and that's when I lost 15 kilos. I know, like, first time we saw this, we made fun of him because we were like, oh, he's a cook, but he's so skinny. He doesn't even like what he cooks. But, like, that struggle is real because you're on your feet all day. So I think it symbolizes just him being a hard worker and also, like, a working class, lower class person, because he doesn't even probably have time to eat throughout the day, or maybe just once, even though he's surrounded by food. And I also thought it was so interesting, like, around the world, these images became so popular of like African children starving and their rib cages showing and things like that. And I feel like it's also powerful that we see this sort of like a white-looking man, a white-passing man, not an African, like a typical black African person, having sort of like the same, image. And and on top of it, I just think this scene also shows like that he really does care about Aisha, and he's like suffering.
I'm sorry. I just have to stop you there. I really like your analysis of like the starving, Egyptian man rather than the starving African child or the starving African person, right? But we were talking before, and you said that Pasta Bay is actually kind of a loser, a fuckboy, whatever, because he doesn't claim Aisha right then and there. Because when his brothers come and say, "Do you like this filthy black woman?" he says no, and you said he's not a real one because he didn't fight for Aisha right then and there.
Yeah, no, he didn't, but he loves her. But that's not the same thing. Like, just because you love that person, like, I feel like you should fight for that person. Okay. And if you don't fight for them, like, then that's just not you showing up.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
But you can still love somebody but not fight for them?
Yeah, and that's what he's doing, which is pussy, like,
Okay, if somebody said, "Do you love this filthy Turkish woman?" and I said, "No," about you, like, let's think about it. Let's keep it real.
You have to be at gunpoint.
I have to be. He's not at gunpoint. He's at thumb point.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously, if you're about to get, like, if you're about to die, tell them that you don't love me. Okay. Like, that's fine, obviously. Okay. But at this point, I felt like he could have said it because the most he will get was a punch.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I mean, their situation is so weird, once again, because maybe Pasta Bay didn't say, I love this woman, because Aisha had never given him any type of play. You know what I mean? So it's like, I should say I like this girl who barely responds to my text messages, who I feed every single day, and she says no more than 2 words to me, like she's an angsty teenager. So,
no, but they had an understanding. Like, they didn't have uncomfortable silence. They have comfortable silence, in
really?
my opinion. Yes.
Comfortable silence? I don't know.
Yes.
I felt like he was just hoping to break down the walls one day, and it never happened. So he was like, I guess I don't like it because she don't like me. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel him for that.
I don't know. And I also just want to point out once again, like, this imagery, I'm pretty sure, like, that's what the director was trying to do, because we also see a lot of Aisha's body, and she kind of has a belly, you know? She's not, like, starving or anything like that. And then we see this guy starving, you know?
Yeah, this scene, I think some of these scenes are intentional. Once again, they are beautifully shot. Like, I know we're blocking it right now, but man, like, just looking at some of these scenes, not just this scene, but like many of the other ones as well. Yeah. Like, you could print out these pictures. The cinematography in this joint is so damn good. So that's, at least we could agree on that, right?
Yeah.
You might disagree on Pasta Bay and Aisha, but we could agree on that.
I thought you were shipping them, no?
A little bit, yeah, at the beginning. But once again, I'm frustrated by Aisha not communicating. So I can't ship somebody who's not trying to build. You know what I mean? Okay. Not even talking. So anyways, things get really nasty because, you know, Aisha goes back to Mr. Khalil's house and she's trying to, you know, do her job. And Mr. Khalil says, Aisha, come here. And yeah, basically Aisha does her duty. She jerks off. Fat. Yeah, you hear the fat. And
yeah,
and he's like disturbing, moaning and like grabbing the back of her neck hella tight. And yeah, it's a jarring scene when it does come on. You know what I mean? And I've watched a few Arab films and I haven't seen anything that I think relates to like this open sexuality like this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There was a film we watched last year, that Lebanese film where these guys are going to see a prostitute. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Holy Spider?
No, not Holy. A Lebanese film. The Lebanese film where everybody has a monologue about how they're going to die and stuff like that.
Yes.
That was the closest I've seen to like sex in an Arab film, Arab drama. But this one I felt like was just, it was gross, brother. Brother.
It was, definitely so gross.
Yeah. But any comments on it?
I don't, like, it's just horrible. I can't say anything else.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, just how power structures are effective, because essentially, if you look at it, he's an old guy. Mm-hmm. He can't really do anything. Like, I feel like Aisha could take him, but she just can't because of how the power dynamics work in her, like, business, basically. Yeah,
it's definitely rape, we would say. And I think it's interesting how in this film sex works, because, like, there are other scenes where sex happens and it makes you think, like, okay, sex in this movie is about not just love. It's never about love, I would say. It's about power and taking advantage of people. You know what I mean? And that's what's happening here to Aisha. And like you said, this is not a true story, but it's based on some real life stories. You know what I mean? So I'm sure many poor migrants around the world are getting taken advantage of this way. So yeah. But moving forward, you know, Aisha is like having like body horror, more scenes of her like plucking at her stomach welts and
she's taking out some stuff like from her body.
Yeah.
At that point in the movie, I couldn't tell, like, it was like a worm or like pus. Like, what is it? I couldn't tell. Yeah,
it was really gross. You know what I mean? After you have that scene with Mr. Khalil and this scene right here, it's like there's some really gross scenes. Yeah. You know, she's looking out her project window and she sees Zuka hanging with the guys drinking and they're all with some girls. Zuka takes like this black girl into his van over here and they start having sex. And I think, you know, this scene here is interesting because like it comes right after this scene when Aisha is with Pasta Bay after she jerks off Mr. Khalil. And she's walking home and she sees a bunch of like, you know, black African prostitutes working on the streets of Cairo. And, you know, when she makes it back home, she sees this girl having sex with Zuka, and they end up forming a bond later in the story because Zuka's car gets shot up. These Africans spin the block and they pull out pistols and just light up Zuka's car. Brap, brap, brap. And she's watching this all through the window. And then, you know, Zuka survives, and the girl that he was having sex with survived, and Aisha has to like fix her up and bandage her. And I thought that was so well done, like in those 15 minutes of like Aisha getting abused, walking past the prostitutes, seeing the girl be a prostitute for Zuka, presumably, and they're still all in the same boat. You know what I mean? I thought it was all so well tied together. But any comments?
Yeah, I think like this, like you said, this 15 minutes is so multi-dimensional and so layered, because I was also like thinking that like nothing is happening for Aisha like how we suppose it would happen, like these intimate things, right? You're supposed to do it with your loved one, where instead when she's with her loved one, she's like seeing denial, right? Him denying her and him like being in conflict with her. And then when she's at work, she's having the sexual experience that she does not want. So nothing like is how it's supposed to be in the normal life. And everything gets twisted. And I feel like this is how a lot of women have trauma, like have sexual trauma. Because like this is not how it's supposed to be. And because of that, they develop this warped sense of sexuality, and it can show up like within themselves. And I also thought like when she watches Zuka go into the van, I also thought she's curious because she's a young girl, like she's a young woman, and this is typically the time where you would experience sexual like things. Obviously she has a lot on her plate, so maybe that's not the first thing that she's thinking of, but I just felt like she was seeing like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. Like it should not in the best way, obviously, because I think she's aware that, you know, the other girl is a prostitute. But it's still like there is some lust to it.
You think so? Okay, that's an interesting take. I think maybe you could say like, you know, Aisha is a bit jealous of Zuka, you know, with the other girl. Not
necessarily of Zuka, but I think just like, yeah, I think she's just wondering, you know?
Yeah, but I think she was more traumatized, especially after Mr. Khalil, you know, did this to her, because I think there's a scene after that, like she goes back to that bridge, and I really feel like those scenes when she's standing outside on the bridge, on the highway, she wants to jump. Maybe she's thinking about, you know, committing that, you know what I mean? So I think she's not, you know, attracted, you know, sexually at all. And once again, we don't know if this might be the first time she's been abused. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's possible that she maybe was abused in Sudan, maybe at other jobs as well. You know, we don't know her full story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think maybe also the body horror parts are showing like, you know, she's carrying these scars from different, you know, events that have happened in her life as well. And yeah, the sex scene was fun. I think the sex scene was done well. I like the sex.
It was like 2 seconds.
It was 2 seconds, but it was like fun as well. And just the situation of the shit getting shot up, you know, I think there's an interesting dichotomy of how black men and black women are like treated in this film. Like in Egyptian society, the way it plays out, you know, black women are seen as like, you know, caretakers. They can be used as like domestic servants and workers and stuff like that. And black men are constantly like a threat in society. We only see black men appear when they're like shooting guns or, you know, dealing drugs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I'm sure there's probably a more nuanced story to tell about black men or black migrant men in Egypt, right? But I think this film is trying to highlight, you know, how blackness is viewed in like the Egyptian mind. You know what I mean? Black foreignness. Black men are the threat and black women are like sexual objects or
powerless objects.
Yeah, powerless objects that can be used either way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I thought that was a very interesting dichotomy right here. Any comments on that?
No.
No? All right. But
I think you said it.
Okay,
nicely.
all right. So moving forward in the film, Aisha helps this young boy, and this boy reminds me of this boy I saw in a BBC documentary shortly produced by the BBC. I'm sorry, I'm ranting, I'm going off. But this young boy in Sudan, man, he had both of his legs blown off, and he's just crying on this documentary saying, I just want to play football again. I want to play football. It's so sad. Y'all should check it out. And try to support the people in Sudan if you can. There's a bunch of charities where you can donate to do that. So Aisha gets a voicemail from Pasta Bay saying, I'm sorry for what happened. I just want to be alone for a while. So she doesn't reply to that. But he's saying sorry for what happened with, her brother a few days ago. Moving forward, Aisha goes to Zuka and says, can I get some sleeping pills? You know what I mean? I need some drugs from you. She doesn't, we don't know exactly why she wants the sleeping pills, but we find out later. Mm-hmm. And we also don't know if Zuka knows why that she wants the sleeping pills. So any comments on any of these scenes?
When I first saw the scene, I was like, did Aisha stole Mr. Khalil's wheelchair?
That's hilarious.
And gave it to this kid?
That's hilarious.
Because if she did, that's good. But no, then she probably either found it or got donated or bought it with her own money, mm-hmm. which is pretty, a generous thing really mm-hmm. For her to do. But once again, this is a repeating pattern that community helps Aisha stay grounded mm-hmm. in a chaotic world mm-hmm. that she's living in.
Yeah.
And when I first saw the scene with Zuka, mm-hmm. I thought Zuka was trying to get Aisha to sell drugs for him. Mm-hmm. I did not understand that Aisha was actually asking for the drugs.
Yeah.
But I do feel like in this exact moment, it feels like they're developing some sort of connection mm-hmm. because he's yeah, come sit, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. and it's sort of she's, in his natural environment, in his home.
Bachelor pad.
Yeah, very, very insane. And he's just just woke up and he's gonna smoke a joint.
Yeah, exactly. He rolls a joint.
He's rolling a joint.
He's rolling joints.
And it felt like a friendlier vibe, if that makes sense.
But Zuka is probably captured by the gang because he's probably feeding all these guys as well. So they run this trap, but he has to break bread with all of them evenly. And these dumbasses just drink and smoke and shoot up all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that drive-by that Zuka went through probably got him shook a little bit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the next scene that we see, Aisha's at home. She looks out her window, and all of Zuka's gang have come back in Jeeps and G-Wagons and vans and stuff like that, saying, yeah, we got those bastards. So they went out to the enemy's block and shot they shit up, and now they shoot in the air, celebrating here. So once again, I like these parts of the film because I just think the gangster shit is done so well. And those gunshots sound so real. But
this guy has a machete. What type of... This is scary as hell. I would not want to be against them or any of the gangs in Egypt. That's just scary. But just imagine as a girl alone in your house, and you see all these men with baseball bats, machetes, guns.
Yeah.
And they're yeah, we killed them. That's just so scary.
Insane. Yeah. I also wondered why the police never came through when all these gunshots and stuff were coming down, but this block is so dangerous that the police probably don't want to come. They might even be paying the police off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they might be doing business with the police. It's a corrupted part of the country.
Yeah.
I think.
So back to Khalil's house, we see that Khalil has a daughter, and her daughter is, of course, an older woman, and she also has a son. And she's separated from her husband, and she's telling her father, Mr. Khalil, I'm not going to go back to my husband. He used to hit my son, Omar, all the time, and he became violent. He's at school, hitting on other kids, and I always have to try to deal with him. And Mr. Khalil is still trying to convince her, you need to get back with your husband. You need to do the right thing. And meanwhile, Aisha is playing with little Omar, and she dresses up in this Batman mask, which makes her look very masculine and kind of cool a little bit. But I really didn't like this scene at all because it sort of like goes nowhere. Like, I guess we gain a peek more into Mr. Khalil's life through the conversation with his daughter and also like the patriarchy in Egypt. But there isn't much more to this scene other than Aisha walking around the house saying Omar in a Batman mask. So what did you think of any of these scenes?
I think we were introduced to Mr. Khalil's daughter and her grandson because kind of to show that class difference, I feel like, because we have this woman, she has her own problems. She's completely unaware that her father is a sexual predator. And then talking there and just talking to him about like how she was suffering from a man when her own father is also like a predator. So just to show like that dichotomy, I guess, like, you know, that irony within the whole universe of this world. And then I don't know about like the scene with the kid. It's a bit weird. I was thinking like, does it have anything to do with like the Western world? Because the kid is wearing a Joker mask and a Batman. And also I was thinking of like how Aisha interacted with children in her community, but versus this kid who's like in a higher class position, even though he's a kid, he can force Aisha to like do something ridiculous. He
didn't really force her, but you definitely felt like Aisha couldn't say no.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that though, like, you know, we are teachers and I feel like sometimes we feel like we have to, you know, please kids because their parents are paying us. At least that's sometimes how I feel, you know. So yeah, like it was weird. And then I guess what Joker and Batman represents, I don't even think it was that deep.
Yeah, it's not that deep, I would say. And I think this scene could have been cut a bit shorter. There is a part where, you know, Mr. Khalil does say, like, Aisha, don't go home. I need you to stay with me. So you can tell, like, even after Mr. Khalil's daughter leaves with his grandson, he's going to try to do something nasty to Aisha. So, like, she stays there and, you know, makes the tea, but she puts the sleeping pills in it. And she makes sure his ass goes night-night, which I thought was kind of cool. But that didn't have to be so long and drawn out. It could have been a bit shorter.
I do want to, now that I just thought about it, basically at the end of their little play with the kid disappears. And Aisha is in the house like, Osman, where are you? And we don't ever really find the kid. And they just leave. And we assume the mom found the kid or something, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that's a symbol of her having dreams of having a family and a kid before, and now it's kind of like lost. It's in the oblivion because of her condition and situation currently.
I could see
maybe.
that. I could see
I'm
that.
Like reaching out.
You're really reaching. You're digging hard. You're digging deep. But I'd be reaching sometimes too. But I could see that a bit, you know, because Batman is a superhero. The last time we see her with the Batman mask, I guess she's like looking in the mirror. And I guess you could say, like, she has to be the hero and helper to other people, but she can't save herself, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. And yeah, this was absolutely, like, smart. Very, very smart of Aisha to, like, think about the sleeping pills.
Yeah.
And that's when I just, like, realized, oh, that's what Zuko gave her, you know?
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. I like that. But, you know, I think after she puts that man to sleep, she begins to eat something in Mr. Khalil's house.
No, it's her own house.
Oh, it's her own house, right? And, yeah, she's, like, you know, satisfied. Like, she was able to, you know, stop the bandits. And it feels like she gained some control back because she's got the keys for Zuka. She's able to find a way to handle Mr. Khalil. She gets to keep her job and live to see another day.
And she does not need pasta babe to eat.
And she doesn't need pasta babe to eat.
She's like, I'm going to cook something tonight.
Yes, she could be self-sufficient. So maybe you could see, like, yeah, that Batman mask is like her being the hero and saving the day. You know what I mean?
Sort of taking control again in some ways of her life.
Yeah. But it's short. It's short because the ostrich comes back up and says, "You forgot me, bitch. Don't you forget? We are one." And yeah, she sees the ostrich in her house. I don't know if she started having like more feathers or like body horror stuff happening here, but yeah, the ostrich shows up again. And this ostrich is so cool looking. It looks so real. It fits into the scene. I don't know if it's CGI or a real ostrich, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we, talked about it before. If we consider the ostrich as like Aisha or Aisha's alienation from the society around her, like it's now in her house. Like before it was in the street, which means like, oh, she's like not accepted. She feels lonely, alienated in the street when she's outside. But now it's like it's in the house. So maybe she's also even feeling like not comfortable and lost and alone, even in her own house because of everything that just sort of happened to her. Also like Pastor Bay sort of like leaving her as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like it's getting closer and closer in proximity. And so she's starting to feel that alienation more and more. It's starting to become more one.
Yeah, because I feel like that's how things start. Like, if you have bad things happening to you, like, for example, if you're facing racism outside, that you're going to eventually take that inside to your home. And you won't have also peace of mind at home, in your own body, in your own mind as well. Like, that's going to affect you.
That's very deep. That's very smart. That's very smart. So moving forward, Aisha, is going to do her annual health checkup. And once again, these scenes are shot so well. Like this looks like, something you would see in like New York Times, National Geographic, the migrant crisis. You know what I mean? Like, and all these girls line up and they're getting their names called for their checkups. Some names are definitely like Sudanic. Other ones come from other parts of Africa as well. So you can tell that there's a mixture of different types of women that are coming here, working in Egypt. You know what I mean? And so when she's there at the doctor asks her, have you had this rash for a long time? And it makes you wonder, like, okay, all this stuff that she's been having at the house, is this actually happening? Or is it symbolic of some other medical condition that she has that is going untreated because she's unable to get medical care? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think definitely the latter one, like, could be happening. That she actually has like a regular disease, like maybe a skin condition or something, but the way she interprets it in her mind, I guess also it's kind of like a strategy, like a protective strategy in her mind is to like tell that this is like imaginary, something imaginary that's happening.
Yeah, I think it might be a mix of both. You know what I mean? It is imaginary, but it's also something real that's going on, right? And I think that's to symbolize how immigrants have lack of health care. So moving forward in the story, like, she's taking care of Mr. Khalil, but he's having some after effects, possibly from the pills or just because he's old and diabetic and stuff. And like in this scene, he's like throwing up into a plastic bag. And while he's throwing up, she's like looking at him like, is today the day you finally croak? So what do you think about this part when like she's trying to manage Mr. Khalil's nastiness?
I think like because she got this sort of control over him a little bit with the sleeping pills, I'm thinking maybe she's now contemplating taking even more power and not in an active way, but I don't know, maybe she's thinking like, okay, if this is not the day, should I choke him with a pillow? Because I mean, essentially, this man is horrible and deserves to die. So,
yeah, he should go. He's got to go. He's got to go. But
she just can't do it at the end because she's like a good Muslim.
She's a good Muslim girl. Nice Muslim girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, where are they? These scenes, they start to get worse and worse. Like once again, like at this point in the film, I believe it's now like the 1 hour and 20-minute mark, and this film is about 2 hours long, and it's ramped up here. Like if you've been watching it up to this point, you're glued in. You're not bored at all, and like these body horror scenes become very disturbing and it's hard to look at. But you get a closer glance and see what's happening, and so you don't exactly know, but you kind of like feel like it might be something in relation to the ostrich, or it might be a real condition because it looks kind of similar to something you might imagine might be a real disease, but also a bit weird because she's like pulling stuff out of it that looked like hard sticks and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
it's really hard to look.
It is. But, you know, at the same time, you know, she's checking on Mr. Khalil, making sure he's not too dead. You know what I mean? And she has another bad dream where, you know, she's with Pasta Bay and he's cooking up an ostrich and, like, she's, like, throwing up feathers and, like, throwing up everything and he's not even caring. He's just chopping at the ostrich and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what did you think of those scenes?
Yeah, I mean, once again, if we think that the ostrich is Aisha, then it's like this guy, Pasta Bay, killed Aisha. Like, he broke her heart and he left her high and dry. I don't know high, but he definitely left her, like, dry and, you know, loveless because he was also kind of her support system, you know? It's not just that he was feeding her or something. Like, we obviously saw that she can feed herself. She can cook at home, buy groceries or whatever. But she actually wanted to meet him and wanted to eat with him and eat his food and etc. And maybe she even hated his food. And that's why she only ate pasta. But yeah, I felt like she also felt betrayed by Pasta Bay.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. My reading of this is like, you know, Pasta Bay, he might be nice with her. He might be, you know, trying to help her. But really, he's just like feeding her, you know, his self-righteousness. You know what I mean? By like, you know, chopping up the ostrich. He's like just saying like, you know, I really don't think much of you. I'm just doing this for what I can do for you. You know what I mean? It's some like good charity or something like that. Yeah, she felt abandoned.
Yeah, it is like, oh, like, I thought you were different, but I guess not.
Yeah. But, you know, some things start to change in Aisha's life. You know, Taufika is deciding she's going to cross illegally into Europe, and they hug and embrace because now their friendship is going to end. Taufika's leaving. And also at the same time, she goes to Pasta Bay, and Pasta Bay is not there at the restaurant. His car is parked outside, but he's gone. You know, he's been transferred or he quit his job, something like that. So she goes to Zuka with the keys that Aisha gave to her. And he's surprised because he gave her 4 keys at one time. And he's like, yeah, I knew you were smart. And Aisha says, can you do me a favor? And so they hop on a motorcycle to go to where Pasta Bay's address is. What did you think about any of those scenes?
First of all, Zuka is hot.
Relax. Relax.
Especially in that scene. But then you go to the next scene and he looks like a keko. Which is kind of like, you know, cheesy guy in Turkish. But yeah. I mean, we knew what was going to happen to Pasta Bay. Like, you know, he was threatened, and he's definitely was not going to risk his life nor his reputation to be with Aisha at the end of the day. So I wasn't surprised by that much, and I was obviously sad. Like, she lost a friend, and also kind of worried. Like, okay, Taufika is going to Europe with a boat, and like, is she going with Zuka? You know, like,
why would Taufika go with Zuka?
Because Zuka is also like, I don't know.
I don't know if Zuka's involved in that trade, but she said I found somebody, and I felt like if it was Zuka, she would have said Zuka.
But anyway, I was also worried about her because, like, we hear all the time these stories, people dying, you know, trying to cross the sea. So it is definitely dangerous. So I didn't want to hear like any bad things about that. Basically. And yeah, I mean, that's it. And I think also here with Zuka, he says like, I knew you were smart, and kind of congratulating her, but also admiring that she's a hustler. You know, she's a gangster in her heart. Yeah. And I feel like Zuka sort of realizes that here.
I feel like, you know, I really like this scene here with the motorcycle, because it reminds me of this film that I've heard about. We haven't watched it, but it's supposedly a classic African film called Tuki Buki. It's from Senegal, 1973, and it has a prominent motorcycle scene. And I think, you know, we don't think about Egypt as Africa, but it's like one of the most prominent African nations. And I look at this film as African cinema. So when I see this motorcycle scene, it makes me think of like, this is an homage to Tuki Buki. You know what I mean? And if you haven't seen the film, which I haven't either, I think everybody has at least heard about the scene with the motorcycle. You know what I mean? And that's what I was thinking about with this part. So I thought this was dope. So definitely we got to watch Tuki Buki one day. But I liked the fact that they tied in the story of Taufika going to Europe, because it is a part of the larger migrant story. I thought Pasta Bay moving out, like, it was very sudden, but there was a scene when Aisha was going to reply to the message that Pasta Bay sent, but she erased it.
Yeah.
And so, like, when he disappears, I was like, girl, what did you expect? Of course he's not going to be there. You ghosted him. He was trying to open up his heart to you, and maybe y'all could have had your own love story, but she wanted to just eat boiled eggs in the bed and not reply.
She's not that type of girl, okay?
I guess.
She's not the one to chase a man.
My only frustration with Aisha is like how she did, Pasta Bay. He obviously wanted to save her.
She didn't do anything to Pasta Bay.
Oh my God. If a man was like feeding you, taking care of you at your worst, and you were giving him like hi and bye and not even replying to his text, would you say like it's okay for that man to ghost on you too?
Okay, let's say I feed you, right? I make you food and dishes. But then one day you see me talking to my friend and she says, "Do you like him?" And I say no. How are you gonna feel? Aren't you gonna ghost me?
But that's different, because if you were like talking to me and stuff like that and trying to make conversation with me, but I'm not saying anything to you, of course I shouldn't be surprised that you might say, no, I don't like him. He doesn't give me any attention or affection. It's different, I would say. You know what I mean? I like Aisha, but come on, like the way she did.
No, I agree. I'm team girly.
Okay, so. I'm not team Pasta Bay. I'm just like, what do you expect? What do you expect? Zuka in the Jerry curl, he looks like Eazy-E. And Tuki Buki. Moving forward, Aisha goes to a cemetery. Apparently where Pasta Bay lives is a cemetery. And I like how they did this scene. It's like a walking shot where she goes in and you hear people like wailing over people that have recently passed away, showing it's like a real active cemetery. She goes to the door and she realizes it's Pasta Bay's house because like his coat is there, but he literally lives amongst the dead. You know what I mean? And he was like poor, possibly in a worse situation than her, because living in a cemetery is just wild. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, she just sits in the silence, and on the way back to her house, she's like crying on the back of Zuka's motorcycle. And I really like these scenes. They were done so powerfully. Well done. What did you think?
Yeah, it was almost like too magical for me to understand that Pasta Bay was living in a freaking cemetery, because I've never seen anything like that. And maybe that's just my, ignorance in that sense. But yeah, that at first I thought, like, is this a symbol that Pasta Bay got killed by his brother-in-laws or something, But yeah, I think it's also like just such a powerful scene. It's like she looks like she's mourning her love in a cemetery, literal cemetery. So yeah, I also really like this scene as well. And yeah, this was also very emotional because she sort of lost two people back to back, like her friend and then next Pasta Bay. So
yeah, I think it's not that hard for me to imagine. There's like third world poverty where people are literally living in landfills. You know what I mean? So living in a cemetery is not that far off for me to imagine, but it is very different. I don't think they do that in Turkey. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in America because of our homelessness epidemic, but I haven't exactly heard of it, But I really like the shot of Aisha crying on the back. You know what I mean? It's so moving, so powerful, so well done. All these shots.
And great acting.
Great acting, absolutely. So moving forward, more body horror. Yep, more welts on her belly. She sees Zuka outside looking through her project window. This is where I think Zuka starts to change in her perspective, and also for us as the audience, as like, he's not a total villain. He can show some grace, some goodness. He's not always exploitative. And he has these, regular guy moments where he's just like on the couch, probably like scrolling through Facebook, like laughing at funny cat memes.
Yeah, but I think this was also Aisha plotting too.
You think so?
Because, Zuka is the person she got the sleeping pills from.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like when she's looking at him, yeah, maybe she's like, acknowledging that he's maybe kind of attractive or just normal guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she's also plotting like, how can I get rid of Mr. Khalil?
Okay.
Like, I don't want to suck his dick no more.
Right. So she goes to work one day and she has this vision where the ostrich is standing over the body. And it looks like the ostrich plucked out his intestines or organs. So then Aisha goes to the dead body and starts to eat it, which was a wild scene. Like, she's literally face deep in his belly, just eating at the guts and stuff like that. Highly, highly interpretive scene. Any comments on it? What do you take away from this one?
Yeah, I think this is like the second time I watched, mostly where I connected like, yeah, ostrich is Aisha, because we can see like Aisha was sort of thinking about maybe letting him die, when he was coughing, or checking his heartbeat to maybe he's dead, and it'll be great if he's dead. So she's been contemplating about that, and then now she has this vision where it actually happens. So yeah, it definitely like sort of tied everything else. Now, the part where she eats the intestines, I don't know what that was about. I
think you had a good interpretation when we watched this film the first time. I remember you saying something like, that's to symbolize like, people think the immigrants are coming and they want to take what's ours, or literally consume us, supersede our culture and all this type of stuff. I think there's an interpretation of that. You know what I mean? Maybe
that's smart. Okay.
You said that, you know what I mean? So I've been thinking about that. I think, she just wants to, just devour this man. She wants the worst for him, you know what I mean? And like, maybe in her mind, she abandons all types of like respectability politics or anything like that. Like, I just want to fucking see you die because you've been torturing me for so much. And not only you, but Mr. Khalil represents like the society that's been marginalizing her, exploiting her, and, looking past her, you know? So
there's definitely like, that's a good one. Like, leaving respectability politics, because, the way we perceive immigrants is like, for example, in America, Mexican immigrants are interpreted in a different way, and European immigrants are interpreted in a different way, right? Like, when immigrants are coming from like developing countries, we see, like, they're savages, or they don't know this, they don't have that, they don't have as good education as we do. And these sorts of things like that, just people think about. And here Aisha is just like letting go. Like, if you want me to be this, I'll be this.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, in Turkey, they call black people yam yam. So it's like, it might be a little...
they don't specifically call black people that. They call like tribal people that. They don't have to be black. In
Harry Haywood's book, when I was reading it, he was walking through Istanbul and he was getting called yam yam.
Yeah, they could use it as a racial slur. Definitely, it can be used. But yam yam means like a person who eats human flesh.
Yeah, a cannibal, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was James Baldwin too who went to Turkey, and he lived in Turkey for a few years, and his nickname was Yam Yam, and he didn't know what it meant. He never knew what it meant.
Does it sound cute though? I feel like if you don't know the meaning, it kind of sounds.
If you don't know the meaning, anything sounds cute, bitch.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Thanks for calling me a bitch.
No, I'm just saying in general. If you don't know, it all sounds cute. But
yeah.
But I think also, I'm not trying to read too much into it, but maybe also like Aisha is hungry. You know what I mean? Like, we've only seen her eat like a boiled egg, some pasta and stuff like that. Meanwhile, Mr. Khalil is fat and high off the hog. So it's like, she's just so hungry. Like, she just digs into his belly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By just eating him. Maybe. I think you could also interpret it that way. So, but anyway, so she continues making the tea, trying to put the sleeping pills in it. But Mr. Khalil is like catching on, and he doesn't like the tea anymore. And he says, make another tea. And then he like forces her to give him top. And the scene is like wicked. You know what I mean? It's such a wild scene. He's like, you know, just going in. And then when he like busts his nut, he like throws her on the floor. And it's so bad. Yeah. So bad. And she goes to the bathroom and starts throwing up everything. You know what I mean? Any comments on this scene or anything?
I mean, yeah, it's just a horrible, like, experience for her. And it also shows, like, how far away, like, he's willing to go as well. Like, it started with a hand job, and now it's, like, something more. And then who knows what he can make her do next. Yeah. There's, like, really no one stopping him. There's no one. And it's almost like because he kind of maybe guessed that Aisha was giving him something, he's like taking revenge on her in that sense. So it's wicked. Very
wicked. Yeah. F. Khalil. Fuck Mr. Khalil. He's the worst. Fuck this guy. Worst villain. If we have a villain for our Grammys, or sorry, our Oscars next year, he's definitely in contention. Yeah. Yes. But Aisha is like sitting at home eating eggs, chilling.
This is just such a weird like scene because she's laying down and eating a boiled egg at 4 a.m. or something. Yeah. I
mean, when you can't sleep, what you gonna do? I don't know.
I guess she's tired.
Yeah. She's looking out the window at Zuka and them. You know what I mean? I think they're talking about, you know, getting revenge or like drug dealing and stuff like that. She's also maybe still plotting on what she can do. You know, to get help.
Here, like, Zuka's looking back.
Yeah.
He's kind of, like, checking her out.
Okay, maybe there's a connection. Maybe, because maybe there's a lot of things that go unsaid in this film, so maybe there was a conversation. She went to go speak to him and maybe told him about what happened with Mr. Khalil, and maybe they plotted something because, you know, the next day, Mr. Khalil is like, hey, go get me some water. Hey, what are you doing? Why aren't you going? And she, like, steals his wheelchair. And, like, he's like, what are you doing, you bitch? And, like, come back here, you sharmuta. I thought that was in Hebrew. I guess it's in Egyptian as well. So he starts chasing her through the house by crawling on all fours. She locks herself in the bathroom, and she calls Zuka, and she says, I'm on the stairs. No, Zuka calls and says, yeah, I'm here. And she says, you know, open the door. You know what I mean? And so she goes outside, but there's a little fight and struggle she has with Mr. Khalil. And she eventually fights him off. Zuka breaks into the house with his homeboy. His homeboy puts the gun to Mr. Khalil and tells him, shut up, bitch. Zuka goes in the back, steals a bunch of money, and then puts the gun to Mr. Khalil's neck and says, if you ever touch her again, I will kill you. Or if you call the police. Bitch. And I wish he put the gun in his mouth. I wish he made him suck it. It would have been so good, but he didn't do it. And then Zuka and Aisha ride off into the night or ride back home. So what did you think of those scenes?
I think this was like sort of Aisha's way of once again taking control, but also just sort of showing us like when the system is not doing anything to protect you, you have to like sort of go into these other alternative ways. And we call these illegal things, but legal things don't do shit. So then what are we supposed to do to protect ourselves, you know? So you can't like really blame anyone for doing this. And that's what she does. Like she needs to take back control. She can't keep on doing this. And
I really like the fact that she called up the homies and the homies like put the gun to Mr. Khalil's like. That's why this is a gangster film at its core. You know what I mean? It's a body horror film and also a drama and an immigrant story. But I like the gangster shit in this film so much. It's like a good ass Tupac song. It's like a good ass Meek Mill track. You know what I mean? Like this shit is so hard. Like it is such a switch from the character Zuka. I like that his character went from one of the villains to kind of one of the heroes.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
I mean, he's great, you know? Yeah. He has good things and bad things, which is like how everyone is. Yeah. But I like it too because he's like a what was it? Sensitive thug.
He's a sensitive thug.
Sensitive gangster.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah.
And once again, I think like he does sort of acknowledge Aisha's poise.
Yeah.
You know, and her integrity, and he respects it.
Yeah.
And Aisha, in some way, also is like making a new community.
A new community. She's a part of the streets.
Which is a weird, like, weird community.
In a way, this always was the community she was in. She was a part of the streets, but she just didn't want to maybe admit it. You know what I mean? And also, like, you know, Zuka's lifestyle only has two options, death or jail. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, you know, Aisha's a good girl. She wants to be a nurse. She probably wants to go back to Sudan. She don't want them problems. You know what I mean? But this is also a lifestyle that she chose. And it's sort of like, in a way, like, kind of like Tyler Perry-ish movie, but reverse Tyler Perry. Because she ends up, like, we end up shipping her for the thug, and the nice guy, we're like, boo. At least for me. I'm saying boo, Pasta Bay. And I'm like, yeah, Aisha Zuka. Yeah, I'm shipping them.
I am shipping them at the end, too.
Oh, man. So
Zuko got it going.
Okay, relax. Anyway. The ostrich is like, bitch, don't think I ain't here. So the ostrich is, you might have fixed things, but we are still one. So the ostrich is still outside. We have this really cool scene where we see Aisha, you know, put her feet up on the wall once again, you know. But it's sort of done in a way that feels more freeing, because we see her like wiggle her toes and it's in the sunlight and the focus is on the feet, when on the other times it was like done in the dark and it seemed like she was like in a prayer type of mode. So any comments on that?
I don't know. I think in some weird way this was also a bit like ostrich-like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just like the long limbs that ostrich has, or like the fact that ostriches like bury their heads, and here Aisha's upside down in a way. It sort of like had this, you know, this similarity, like a visual similarity in a way. And I don't know, maybe at this point she's embracing the fact that, you know, she's the ostrich.
That's a good point. I can see that interpretation. That's a very cool interpretation. I like that. It's cool. I'm not going to dig that deep. I just really like some of these scenes. Once again, this looks like a photo, you know what I mean, from a really cool Instagram. Yeah. But she gets called into the office the next day, and she's like, do. She's like, oh, it's today the day I go to jail. Go to jail. And so, but her boss says, Mr. Khalil asked to replace you. He didn't say why. He just would like a new caretaker. And she's like, okay. So today will be your last day with Mr. Khalil, and then we're going to move you somewhere else. And she's like, woo! So, yeah, that was sick. What did you think of that scene, if anything?
Yeah, I think she was partying inside. Like, yes, it worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
I was happy for her.
Very much so.
It was giving like, oh, is it going to be a happy ending? Yeah. You know?
Yeah. I would have hated for this film to have like a very sad ending after we saw everything Aisha went through. And I would hate to just have this film be like black pain pornography. But it doesn't end up being that, which I think is actually very good. But moving forward, there's this final major battle with the black gangs and the Egyptian gangs in the slums of Aisha's neighborhood. So she's coming home one day, and then all these, you know, black guys on motorcycles and tuk-tuks, whatever, pull up and start breaking all the cars in Zuka's neighborhood. They're smashing the windows. They're burning shit. They throw a Molotov cocktail at Zuka's favorite couch, and the shit is going left. Like, it goes crazy. And Zuka's gang comes busting out the window. There's this major shootout. Man, people are dying everywhere. Bodies are dropping, you know what I mean? It's a really cool, I would say, final major battle scene. And I really like the way that, unfortunately, Zuka dies. Like, we see Zuka die, but the way he gets shot down, it's not like this epic hero slow motion death. It's like he gets shot in the shoulder or something like that and then falls to the ground. You know what I mean? And that's sort of the end of Zuka. They're also throwing firebombs everywhere. And one of the firebombs hits Aisha's apartment. She rushes inside, tries to put it out with water and try to do as much as she can. And she's left with like a half burnt down apartment while she hears the police outside trying to bring order to the chaotic community. So what did you think about any of those scenes?
Yeah, I also thought the fighting scene was very, very well done. And I think there was also so much focus on it. Like, they took the time to show, like, individual people, like, smashing different things. And there was, like, a scene where one guy thought he won, and he got on top of the car, and he was, like, yelling, and then he got shot. That was, like, cool.
Yeah.
And, it's sort of like, I was thinking, this is war.
Yeah.
Like, this is what she escaped, literally. And because of, like, her status, her conditions, her finances, and just how the system is, she's put in this situation again where she literally might get killed and shot, like how she would in a war.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And then moving forward, when her house was burning down, this is the first time I feel like I heard, like, Aisha cry, like, in a voiced way, like she was actually wailing and sort of like very panicked. And obviously it's normal, but that's just like the first time, and maybe that shows like how much of a value she puts on her house, and also maybe like just her appreciating what she had, but now like it's being damaged. I don't know, like being grateful in a way. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like this home is all she has.
Yeah.
And if you remember back in the scene when her window was broken by the brick, like she pays for a man to come and like fix the window and stuff like that. And, I think she takes a lot of pride in her home because it's, once again, her own safety, but it's a place where she can be relaxed and be more free and assert her dominance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it was definitely like one of the first times we see her like just really outright panicking and crying.
Yeah.
And,
going back to the fight scenes, once again, I think there is a criticism or a critique to be had of this film from a Black perspective, in the sense that, yes, the film centers Black women's experiences in Egypt, but it makes Black men sometimes the villain, I would say here. But I would also argue that maybe this film also asserts some type of affirmative Black masculinity, in the sense that the Black men are not just permanent victims to a racist system. Like Zuka feeds them to the dogs, they come back and shoot at the community. You know what I mean? Zuka goes and kills their gang, they come back and tear the whole block up. You know what I mean? I think also there is an analysis to have of this film that it represents sort of the Negrophobia that exists in the North African world. You know what I mean? Because like the North African Arabs exist in this weird psychotic state where they're kind of Arabs when they want to be or when they're forced to be. They're kind of indigenous Berbers when they have to be or forced to be. And then they're Africans all the time. And that sits weirdly in their mind. You know what I mean? And because of the migration crisis, it sort of like exacerbates this fear that they have of Black people. You know what I mean? Because they're fighting over scarce resources in a lot of these developing countries. And also, they're just thinking that any day this might explode. Like the Blacks might take over. You know what I mean? I think this is a perspective maybe that exists in the subconscious of the North African mind, and I think it's playing out a bit on screen here when we see like those battles, especially this final fight scene. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, I definitely think it is intentional that like one gang was all Black and then one gang was like Arab, right? And we don't even know like if these are Sudanese men. Like we don't know. Maybe they're just Egyptians. Like they're just Black Egyptians. Yeah. Right. So I think there's definitely something to be said there, like you said, and it might just even be to show like how, there is still some way of like segregation within the community and within the country and the culture. Yeah.
One of my defining memories of Tunisia is like, I was coming from a city called Sfax, and I had taken the bus back up to Tunis. And when you come back to Tunis with the bus, you then have to take a taxi, for me at least, to get back to where I was going home. And they have this loop street that goes around into the highway. And on the side of the highway, there was a football pitch, a major football pitch. And when I was looking out the window at the football pitch, there was a divided, segregated football team. And it was literally Arab kids on one side playing football with one goal and a whole bunch of black kids on the other side playing football. And I always think about that all the time. And I think about, all the other stuff I dealt with there as a black person, and also learning and witnessing the black experience in Tunisia as well. So I think about that when I make my assessment of this film, you know what I mean, in the black and Arab relations in it, So yeah, that's all. Any other comments?
No.
All right. So moving forward, we see finally what the lumps and bumps on Aisha's body were, and it looks like she's growing feathers. She really is a bird. She's a fit bird. But yeah, this scene was really cool. They take like a minute or two to like zoom in and close up on Aisha's body, and like she's looking at the feathers, and I think maybe she pulls one or two out, but she sort of like accepts that this is what it is. That's how I interpret it. She doesn't look at it as something to be afraid of anymore or fear. She's like, I am becoming this. I am the ostrich.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at that transformation. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel the same. It's like now she's more comfortable, maybe also like being the ostrich, and she finds power in that as well in, certain ways. I like how she was in a very bad place with this guy like harassing her at her job, and then she was able to take control. And even though she was in a foreign land and in a bad situation, she was able to come through that. So maybe it's like just her, taking control of her alienation, taking control of her loneliness, and making something out of it, and just embracing it, using it as a power rather than just being like a leaf that's being blown in the wind. Yeah. Through acceptance, she gains some sort of autonomy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the final scene is like Aisha going to work at her new job, and she's taking care of more old people, but this time it's in, I guess, like an old folks' home. And so life continues. Life goes on. I also noticed that in this part of the film, she's wearing gloves. She's covering her hands. Yeah. So maybe she actually has like a real skin condition or something that's spreading across her body. Maybe it's leprosy. Who knows? And she's just like trying to protect herself and protect the old people as well. So that's the end of the film. Kind of a bit anticlimactic. Not a real total victory for Aisha, but it's sort of like satisfying in a way. You know what I mean? Like by Zuka being gone, by her getting rid of Mr. Khalil, and presumably her keeping her apartment and her job, like she's still able to build on her life. And what do you think? Yeah, it's not like it's necessarily a bad or a good ending, I would say, but it is more like you said, her life is like getting a bit better, in some ways. And she's more, she now knows better to navigate these waters. Yeah. Basically. So overall, my final score for this film, I know it might not look as exciting from the screenshots and things like that, but it actually is, I would say, an exciting movie, a thrilling movie, a movie that sort of like takes you in different directions and different modes of thinking about the character and her situation, and I think it's really well done. I think it's a strong contender for Best Film of 2025 when we do our Oscars eventually, when we hit another 100. I think it's going to be one of those films that I'll definitely argue for as being one of the best this year. But I give it a solid 9 out of 10. There are some slow burn scenes that maybe could have been cut. I think the film could have been a good hour and 45 minutes instead of the 2 hours section. But that's what I think. But what do you think? I also think like it's very cinematically pleasing to the eye. Like we pointed out so many times, there are scenes in this movie where you can just snapshot and put it as a poster on your wall. And I think it has repetition value. Like I watched this movie 2 times, and the second time I actually enjoyed it more because I realized there were so many parts that I missed, and like new ideas came in. So in that way, I think it's very like dissectable. Yeah. So yeah, and I would say I'd give it a 9.5. Yeah. Actually, and just 9. like 5 points for kind of like the same reasons as you, like some of the scenes felt a bit unnecessary.
Yeah. I definitely want to see more from Mr. Mostafa, the director. You know, he's got a good eye on cinematography, like for real. Some of these scenes, even just this scene right here, like it looks like a painting, my guy. Like the lighting, the camera work, the acting from everybody involved. Not a bad actor insight, you know what I mean? Even Mr. Khalil, I hated him, but he was good at what he did, at making me hate him. You know what I mean? Everybody was so dope in this film. Hopefully they get more roles and more scenes, and hopefully Mustafa can make some more films too. You know, so Acme also found some information about this important story about the immigrants in Egypt. So if you don't mind reading for the people here.
Yeah, this is a report from UNICEF in 2023, 2024. And it's talking about the situation of Sudanese displaced population in Egypt. And I just thought like all of this information hit harder and more, you know, closer to heart after watching this movie. So that's why I wanted to share and just also have more information about the situation. Let's
do it one by one. I'll read one bullet point, you do one.
Okay.
So according to the government of Egypt, figures, more than 1.2 million Sudanese arrived from Sudan since the outbreak of the conflict in April 2023. So that's a lot of people. That's an insane amount of people.
67% of respondents are females, and more than 90% of respondents completed secondary or higher education.
So a lot of young women are coming, and they're highly educated, but they're working these menial jobs.
Yeah. And the reason why it says respondents is because they collected this data through cell phone interviews. So these are all the statistics that are coming from the participants. So it could be like more or higher.
Wow.
These numbers because these are only the ones that are recorded basically.
Yeah. Some participants described their neighborhoods as lacking both safety and adequate facilities. 13% have no beds. 22% have no refrigerators. 30% have no chairs and tables. 44% have no water heaters. So very similar to like Aisha's story in a way. Like I think where she was living, she had a bed but no refrigerator, only a couch, and I doubt her water was hot.
Yeah. 57% of the respondents live in a 5 to 9 member household, and 17% live in a 10 to 19 member household.
That's very similar to Taufika's house.
Yeah.
The adults expressed concern over safety in their neighborhoods, causing them to refrain from going to work, often far from their location of residence, so as not to leave their wives and children alone.
Yeah. So it's like also this thing that kind of keeps them away from work in certain jobs. Like it's limiting in different kinds of way. The proportion of those currently working remains at about 1/3, with half the respondents still actively seeking employment.
I wouldn't be surprised if some people are, doing side jobs like, selling fruit in the street or something like that.
Yeah.
85% of respondents were employed in Sudan before the war, and only 3% were unemployed, with the rest being out of the labor force.
Concerns over the family's safety are among many other obstacles facing those looking to secure jobs. The lack of documentation is another significant barrier, as individuals who have no proof of their qualifications and skills find it almost impossible to land jobs in their field of expertise. This pushes job seekers to either settle for jobs that do not match their skills and often not financially rewarding and come with challenging work conditions, or to remain unemployed and suffer the financial consequences.
This reminds me of when I was working in Miami. I had, Haitian guys, Cuban guys that I was also parking cars with and doing bellhop work with. And you cannot, imagine the amount of doctors I met. A guy who was an economist in his country. This other guy was like a high-level government official, and they left because of the earthquake or the economic crash or political instability, and then they're parking cars with me. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think also once again, like this is kind of like related to the systems that also put these people in these places. Like I know it's diplomacy, but do you really need it? I don't know. In certain cases, Yeah.
I think, if you have doctors and engineers who who are fleeing a war, I think, there should be a way for that country to like fast track those people to use those valuable skills in the country. I know some people would say, but they'll work for lower wages and stuff like that. They'll only work for lower wages if you force them into an underground economy. If you make it so that companies can take advantage of immigrants with lower wages, that's how that will happen. But if you allow them to compete with other people as well in the marketplace, then they work for the same wages a doctor or engineer would in your country. So. Yeah. Moving forward, what else? So, 40% of respondents were relying on aid and assistance as their main source of income in July, and a striking 95% expressed their dissatisfaction with the sufficiency of the aid, stating that it barely covered the meals and rent of a single day. Only 9% reported work as their main source of income.
A phone-based survey revealed that almost all, 99% of children were enrolled in schools in Sudan, almost half of which are no longer enrolled in Egypt. So 45% is not enrolled as of May 2024. 1/5 of those enrolled are not able to attend school regularly due to financial constraints, medical conditions, and difficulty commuting, among many other reasons.
Moreover, some parents have voiced their concerns over bullying or discrimination and the consequences of these challenges on the mental health of their children, causing them to refrain from applying to Egyptian schools altogether and to wait for the situation to stabilize in Sudan in hopes of their children being able to resume their education back home. So this is one of the common, complaints that Black parents have, is that, you send your kids to a school where it's not mostly Black, and they're going to be teased or insulted. And it's also doubly confounded by the fact that they're from a different nation as well, especially coming as refugees. And this is common all across the world,
Yeah. And when I put this in, it made me think of Mohammed in the movie. He had a disability, and his parents probably don't have the means to take him to school and bring him back and all of those things. So maybe he was just not even in school.
Sad.
Yeah.
Is there more?
One more, yeah.
So 18% of respondents identified instability as the most stressful factor for children. This followed by loud noise triggers and the stress of isolation and lack of integration into their new community. Both reported by 12% of respondents with children in their household. I mean, Egypt is noisy, man.
Yeah.
It's a noisy-ass country, car-centric country.
I mean, it was prevalent enough to, mention it in the study, so, yeah, that's definitely one thing.
My gosh.
Bullying and harassment were brought up on several occasions in the qualitative research. The quantitative research shows that 88% of respondents found Egyptians to be welcoming. A quarter of respondents share that their children were subjected to bullying, ranging from racism, reported by 33%, physical aggression and beating by 22%, and sexual harassment by 2%, along with other forms such as verbal abuse, social alienation, theft, and mockery. These incidents were reported to primarily take place in the streets and markets, 83%, as well as schools and nurseries, 11%.
I think, they said only 33% reported racism, which is a very high number, but I honestly think that number is higher because I think as people's subjective experience or opinions dictate what is racism. Somebody might say, they might call me Blackie, and I don't consider that racism. Another person might say, that's very racist, you know what I mean? And from my experience in North Africa, it's very common to refer to Black people by their skin color or their race or different other nicknames rather than as people. I take that to be racism. Some Black Arabs don't consider that to be racism, so there's a difference in opinion. But if it was, have you ever been called by your skin color or named something like that, then I'm pretty sure the results will be higher. And so, yeah, that's what I would say.
And also here, they did two researches, basically, a qualitative one and a quantitative one, and they had different results. So I think that also adds on to your point that even, the research is not really adding up because of these different type of responses.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. See, this is what happens when you marry a a future PhD holder like my wife, that you end up reading quantitative research papers at the end of a movie review. So
I think it's important, like, to talk about these things, and why not give information about it while we're in the topic?
Absolutely, that's very real. Shout out to acting. That's a real one. I mean, we've been talking about Gaza and Palestine all year. Well, let's give some light to what's happening in Sudan. Anyway, this has been Aisha Can't Fly Away. Very dope movie. Check it out if you have the ability to. It's not that hard to find online, but try to watch it before it disappears, because there have been so many films that are actually lost media. And one day this film might be lost media, but we're going to try to keep this film alive and try to support it and tell people to go watch it if you can. And any other comments?
No, I would just, I guess, recommend this movie to everyone. I think it will appeal to anyone, really, because it's such an interesting movie. Yeah,
I think this film actually would get some love, like, in more Middle Eastern countries. You know what I mean? I think in Turkey, if they translate this film in Turkish, people might check it out and like it.
Yeah.
I think definitely Black folks in America should check this out. I think we should try to support, films about our struggle in different places and locations. So, yeah. Anyway, this has been Simon and Acting Movie Reviews. I think this is episode 128. If not, I'll put the right title in the title of this. If you have any other films you think we should review, put them in the comments. We'll try to get to it. Y'all be easy out there, and peace.